welcome back to my channel and welcome to a storytime video. I don't think I've ever done a storytime video, so this is exciting. Some of you who've been following me for a while may know that I have been waiting to have surgery and that I recently had surgery, hence why a video didn't come out last week and why I'm a bit late with one today, because I have been resting up and I've been rather sore and tired and generally just overwhelmed. But the circumstances of that surgery were quite bizarre, and I asked if you guys would like to hear the story of my bizarre surgery experience, and I got a lot of yeses. So here I am. I have my cup of tea. Lately I've been mixing Earl Grey with chai because I have puka chai, and puka chai doesn't have any black tea in it, so I find it a little bit weak. Like the cinnamon and spice flavor is very strong, but it's kind of, you can really taste the water. So I really like to mix normal tea with it. I've only got Earl Grey because I really love Earl Grey, but I find the two together is very nice. The orange blossom flavor really kicks it up a notch. So I guess to tell this story, I kind of have to go back to the beginning. I'll try not to make this too long, but you kind of need the details to understand the context. Just a little disclaimer, if any of you are grossed out by talking about menstruation or blood, this is not the video for you, because this is a story about surgery to do with that part of my body. So yeah, I would click off now if you don't want to hear about that. So basically, about nearly 18 months ago now, I started having really heavy bleeding that wasn't necessarily associated with my period. And I had an experience where I went to meet my family in Hyde Park and my period had ended. So I usually use a menstrual cup, which will last me, I can wear it the whole 12 hours. I don't have to change it. My period is usually pretty light and lasts about 4 days. So it had ended. It was a couple of days afterwards. And because I was meeting my family in Hyde Park for a family picnic and the ladies' toilets or the public toilets there are really disgusting, I decided just in case I would wear my menstrual cup so that I wouldn't have to be like, you know, trying to, if I had a bit of an emergency situation, I wouldn't have to deal with that in the ladies' toilets because it's really awful. So I just decided to be prepared, but totally expected that absolutely nothing would happen. I went to the park to meet my family and I had been out of the house for maybe 2 hours at that point. And I was sitting on the grass and suddenly I was just like, I have a feeling I might be bleeding. And so I excused myself. Luckily I was wearing my Vivienne of Holloway 1940 styles maroon slacks, so no one could see anything. But when I got to the ladies, I discovered I had filled up the whole cup, bled everywhere, all over my clothing. And normally I don't wear a liner because I have absolutely no need to. I've been using the cup for 2 years now and I've never had to use a liner. And it had gone everywhere. And I was bleeding so heavily even once I'd cleaned everything up that I was like, this is not normal. Maybe I'm pregnant and I didn't realize and I'm having a miscarriage right now, or I'm what does that even look like? I have no idea, but this is not normal. It was so much. I didn't know what to do. I was literally in the cubicle panicking because I was there's no possible way I can make this stop. I can't leave the cubicle. Eventually it slowed down enough that I was able to leave the cubicle, and I had lost so much blood that I was really dazed, and I think I was also in shock as well because I was just what the hell is going on? What's wrong with me? This can't be normal. I decided I should probably go to the hospital, so I started walking to the hospital, which is 1 kilometer from the middle of the park, which is where we were, which was really stupid because I was basically hemorrhaging at the time and I was going off all by myself. I was calling Val because he worked right by the hospital in that area of the city, and leaving him messages and being please answer, I need you to come with me. I'm freaking out. And eventually I called my mum, who's in Australia. It didn't help at all, but I was just I just need to speak to someone who might understand, because my mum has had a lot of problems of this sort when she was younger as well. And she was first of all, you need someone with you, and secondly, yes, you need to go to the hospital. That's not normal. And she called my uncle and yelled at him and told him he had to come and help me. And he was I didn't even know something was wrong, I'm sorry. My uncle came and found me and took me to the hospital. And at the hospital they did nothing. No one checked me. They took my blood pressure, that was it. And they asked me questions, and the questions were what's your cycle like normally? But the main thing they focused on is, have you flown in a plane recently? And I was like, well, yeah, I went to Lyon and back, but I do that very, very regularly. And I've flown so many times when I had my period. Like, it's not anything to do with that. And I knew that. And also I was like, yeah, whatever, it's not my period. Like, this is not, I've never ever bled like that. And it wasn't like it's a heavy period over this week. It was like in one go, and like literally 5 minutes was just like this onslaught of hemorrhaging. So I was like, this is not my period. Stop talking about my period. And they wouldn't listen to me. And they basically just lectured me and went, sometimes when women fly in airplanes, it messes up their cycle and it makes it come afterwards. So I know you think it's not your period because it's not like the time that you usually have your period, but it's just because you flew in an airplane, you're fine. And I was like, that's it? Like, no one's going to do anything? No one's going to check me? Because this is like, I just lost a shit ton of blood. And I think because I have high blood pressure, so when I go to the hospital, they're always worried about my blood pressure. And that trip, they told me my blood pressure was normal. So for me, actually, my blood pressure had dropped a lot. But I had lost a lot of blood and I wasn't really thinking straight. And so I just was like, okay. And I thought, whatever, I'll just follow this up with my GP, because these people are clearly idiots and weren't interested in listening to anything I said. Because apparently women know nothing about their bodies. I don't know. Does this happen to guys as well? I feel like women in particular just get treated like that part of their body is inconvenient when it's not working properly, and also that we don't know what we're talking about when it comes to our menstruation, and it happens to us for a week every month. We definitely know what we're talking about. If we tell you it's not working right down there, doctors, it's not working. Rant aside, I think I need some tea. Then I spent ages trying to get a doctor's appointment. I finally got a doctor's appointment with my GP, which is always a different GP. It's always a different doctor, but I go to the same place, if that makes sense. Again, no one checked me, and everyone just told me that it was my period and it was normal, and sometimes women's periods get heavier as they get older. And I was just like, do you think I'm an idiot? Like, do you think I don't know what like a lot of blood is? Like, I kept trying to explain, like, no, it's not just like a heavy period. This is like absolutely insane. But I think they just thought I was being a wimp or something, because they just kept ignoring me. And eventually, like 3 months later, I got a phone call appointment with a female GP at my clinic. And I was like, I'm just going to cry. I didn't even need to cry. I was very frustrated and angry, and I felt like yelling at someone. But instead I thought, I'm going to cry, because unfortunately, sometimes that is the only way to get people to listen to you, is to play the guilt card. This is severely impacting on my life. I'm bleeding now. My period, which I still didn't believe it was, and I was right, is like 3 out of 4 weeks of the month. This cannot be normal. Can someone please help me and do something about this? So finally, when I laid it on really thick, I actually got a nice doctor who wanted to help me, so I probably didn't need to do that. But anyway, she gave me a referral to have an ultrasound. So still no one was willing to send me to a specialist, but they sent me to have an ultrasound. And the ultrasound came back and it showed that I had a teeny weeny fibroid, like a millimeters big, like it was really tiny. And my doctor called me and she said, look, that's probably why you're having the heavy bleeding. Basically, your only option is to go on the pill. Are you willing to do that? And I was like, no, I'm not willing to go on the pill. I've been on the pill in the past. The pill makes me an actual psycho. And it makes me incredibly depressed to the point that I literally have, suicidal thoughts and things. So I'm not willing to go on the pill. And I'm not the only one who this happens to, because I've spoken to almost all of my girlfriends who have ever been on the pill, and they all quit for the same reason. They got terrible depression and their mood swings were so bad that it impacted on their relationships with other people, like so bad. So she was like, well, that's really your only option for a fibroid is that small. So how about we just check on it in 6 months' time and see how it's going. About 3 months after that, not even, maybe a couple of months, I went to the doctor and I was like, look, no one has done anything about this. And this is completely out of control. I don't understand how this is acceptable, and the only option I have is to go on the pill. There's got to be some other way to deal with this. And the GP was looking at my file and stuff, and he's like, oh, on that test that you had, actually, it shows that the endometrial lining, which is the lining inside your uterus that builds up when your body hopes you'll get pregnant and then breaks down and becomes your period, that's like incredibly thick. Maybe I've got endo, or maybe I've got adenomyosis, which is something that my mum had. I was like, if someone could investigate that, that would be good. I would like to see a specialist, please. And he was like, oh, okay. Like, he was a bit put out that I wasn't kind of going with his route of fixing it first, having not even checked me or done anything to check that what they were doing was actually related to what my problem was. And they hadn't actually listened to anything I said. Like, every time I told them something, they didn't really listen to that, and they asked me a different question, which was very frustrating. And again, he tried to offer me hormones, and I was like, no. He got really pissed off at me that I wouldn't take them. He was like, it's only 14 days worth, and if you feel all sad and depressed, then when you go off of them, that'll go away. I don't see what the problem is. And I was like, excuse me, male doctor who has never taken the pill in his life, how the would you know? So I refused to take those, and he gave me something called tranexamic acid, which basically clots your blood and tries to reduce the bleeding. Because the issue if you have a fibroid is that it's not really, unless it's something else, but they felt that it was probably the fibroid, which means that because it's in the muscle tissue in the wall of your uterus, it's like directly leading to blood vessels. So when you have your period, instead of just having your period, it also like breaks down the wall of the fibroid, and then that just bleeds from the blood in your body, which is why you lose so much blood. Yeah, he gave me this tranexamic acid, which kind of sometimes worked and other times really didn't. It just depended how much my body was bleeding. And in the meantime, I had to wait to see the gynecologist, which didn't take too long. I think that took 3 or 4 weeks. And in the meantime, they took my iron levels, and they actually originally told me that they were fine. And then the lovely lady doctor panicked and rang me, and she was like, oh, I've been trying to get in contact with you because you've been told that your iron levels are normal, but not your ferrous fumarate levels, which is like another iron indicator. And she's like, that is ridiculously low. You want it to be up around 100, 120, and yours is 12, which isn't the worst that they've ever seen, but it explained why I was doggedly tired. There were days where I couldn't get out of bed. I was struggling to have enough energy to do more than 1 or 2 things in a day. So if I went to work, that was it. Like, I couldn't cook dinner. I couldn't make a YouTube video. I couldn't do anything. I was so exhausted all the time. And she was like, yeah, you're severely iron deficient. I'm sorry if this is icking you guys out and if it's TMI, but I was losing, like, I'm not joking, this much blood in a day. You've got to remember I was wearing a menstrual cup, so there are squirrels on my veranda. They literally just walk straight, like, they're right here. Just both walk past with a nut each in their mouth. They're very cute. Anyway, so yes, I have like the measurements on the side of my menstrual cup, so I could measure, you know, how much I'm losing when I take it out, plus obviously all the overflow that I was having as well, because the menstrual cup lasted me like 20 minutes when it used to last me 12 hours. Like, it was crazy. So I was able to measure, and I measured that some days I was losing anywhere between 100 and 250 mils of blood in a day. That doesn't include all of the blood that's like all over my pants and my bed and couches and chairs and the floor sometimes. Like, there's so much blood, I cannot explain it to you. So I went to see the gynecologist, who was amazing. I was blurting all of this stuff out to him, and he's like, it's okay, I know, I'm not a GP, I'm a gynecologist, I know. This is very bad. It's not normal. We have to fix this. And at this point, I had also discovered what felt like a tumor inside me. And he looked and he was like, oh yeah, I don't know if this is the fibroid that they noticed a few months ago, because at this point, they found the fibroid in October and I was seeing him in May. And in that time, I had grown this tumor, which was terrifying. I was like, what the hell? What is this? And no one was like examining me. And I was like, someone do something, God. Anyway, so he looked at me and he's like, oh yeah, you have a giant polyp, which is like, fibroids and polyps are basically the same thing. It's like a benign tumor or a non-cancerous tumor. Sometimes it is cancerous, but it's very rare. The difference is that a fibroid is in the muscle wall and a polyp is like hanging in the free spaces. So it can be like inside your uterus or inside your vagina or like stuck in your cervix. So he was like, yeah, you have one of these. It urgently needs to come out because yeah, I can see you can't use tampons, you can't use a menstrual cup, and you definitely can't have sex. So we need to fix this really quickly. And I was like, thank you for being the only person who cared enough to really do anything and not treat me like I was annoying and being dramatic. He was trying to say to me like, I'm really sorry, you have to have surgery. Are you okay with this? And I was like, give me the surgery. I don't care anymore. Like, I would be so happy to have surgery. So I left and I was like on cloud 9. I was like, yes, life is about to improve, because at this point it had been severely impacting my income because I'm freelance and every time I take a day off, I don't get paid. And I'm also on a visa, so there's no way I'm eligible in any way to get like sick pay or disability pension or anything like that. So I was kind of getting seriously financially screwed at that point. So I'm waiting and I'm like, it's gonna happen soon. And I would check every day to see if a letter had come from the hospital giving me my date. So they give you like a pre-appointment where you talk to the anesthesiologist about any, allergies or like issues that you might have. Like I have high blood pressure, so they need to like monitor that carefully when I'm under. And just to let you know what's going to happen when you have the surgery. So I'm waiting for these 2 appointments to be sent to me. So at the 2-month mark, I rang my GP because I hadn't been provided with any like contact details for the hospital or for the department of the hospital. And on the website, they just have the general call line, which no one answers ever. The staff at the GP clinic said, "Oh, have you not heard anything yet?" And I said, "No, nothing. I haven't even had like a confirmation letter to say you've had your specialist appointment and now you're on a list waiting for surgery. Nothing." She was like, "Oh, they should have sent you a letter at 5 weeks. That's like the cutoff limit. They have to have sent you a letter at the 5-week mark, no matter how long in the future your surgery is going to be." And I was like, okay. So she said, "Let me chase this up. I'll chase this up for you. You don't need to worry about this. I'm going to do this." And I was like, okay. So I wait, and a week later I hadn't heard anything. So I rang the GP clinic again. I was like, "Hi, I'm just trying to find out when my surgery date is." And she said to me, "Yeah, I did email. I actually emailed and I phoned." And she said the reservations department said they're still waiting on a date for you and that they will contact us when that date comes through. They haven't forgotten about me. I'm just on a list and they're waiting to give me the date. And at this point, like, it was getting pretty desperate. It had been another 8 weeks. It was getting worse and worse and worse. So I was able to work less and less. And as you guys know, you saw me on my channel, like I wasn't getting anything done. I was struggling to upload, just take photos and put them on Instagram and make YouTube videos, let alone actually like leave the house and go to work. And my work is quite taxing. I'm usually on my feet all day, constantly talking to people and doing customer service stuff. So no, I couldn't be doing that. So I just wouldn't be able to go to work. Because I'd heard nothing, I was like, look, I'm just going to start calling every week for another 2 months. And every time they told me, "We're actually emailing and calling without you ringing us. So we have been emailing twice a week and calling once a week, every week for the past 2 months. And eventually I just sent an email through the official channels to my GP, but it like kind of goes through the department and it's on record then. And I just wrote like, "I'm losing money. This is ruining my relationship. This is just, someone has to do something about this now. What can we do? I need an answer about this." And the GP clinic called me and the girl said, "I have just been on the phone to the reservations department being really pushy and trying to find out what is going on. And they have told me that the specialist, or his department at least, have not filled the paperwork out properly. And so you can't be given a date. So you're just kind of in limbo." I was pissed. I can't even tell you. I was so annoyed. I said to her, like, "What can I do? Like, we can't just keep doing the same thing that we're doing and emailing and calling them and have them saying like, 'Oh, we don't know. We're just waiting to hear back from the specialist.' Like, it's not okay." So she gave me the direct line to the reservations team at the hospital. No one ever answered the phone. I just kept getting hung up on, and a couple of times they picked up the line, started dialing, and hung up on me when they realized someone was on the line. And I was just like, are you kidding me? So then I sent an email via the normal like general inquiries form on the hospital website and just put a huge rant about how bullshit this situation was, basically. And I thought, someone has got to get back to me. Like, "Oh, just tomorrow I'll try again." So I went to that sleep that night. I'd been crying and stressing out. Like, I literally didn't know what to do. My family and I had chatted about whether or not I come back to Australia and go on the waiting list there. Yeah, it had been a very stressful day. And then I'm lying in bed in the morning, like half awake at 8 a.m. and the phone goes. And I was like, oh, it's weird that I'm being rung at 8 a.m. in the morning. So I answered the phone and a voice goes, "Hello, this is so-and-so from..." I'm still getting treatment from the hospital, so I don't want to name them and bash them online and then I'm going to be getting treated by them. I want to be on their good side. So anyway, "This is so-and-so from bleep hospital. Are you coming in for surgery?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm definitely coming in for surgery. What's the date? Like, what's going on? Why has no one contacted me?" And she's like, "No, ma'am, are you coming in? You're 2 hours late for surgery." I have been ringing my GP in the hospital every week for 2 months to try and find out my surgery date, and you're telling me I was supposed to come in today? Poor lady, like, English was clearly her second language, and she was on the surgical team, so she wasn't even like the receptionist or anyone from like customer service. So she was just like, I'm going to give you over to the surgeon. So she handed me to the specialist who had given me my examination 4 months earlier. And he was like, hello, Miss Townsend, what's the problem? And I said, no one informed me I had surgery today, and I've been trying to find out. Like, it's not like I've been negligent about it. Like, I've been actively trying to find out my surgery date for months. I've been calling every week, and you've just rung and told me that I was supposed to be there at 6 a.m. this morning, and it's now 8. Like, I'm 2 hours late for my surgery that I've been desperately trying to get. And he said, okay, look, forget about why you didn't know you had surgery. Can you come in right now? And I was like, if you guys will wait for me, I will come in. Like, I'm so desperate to have this surgery. I'll come in right now. I don't care. I said, but I haven't had a pre-op appointment or anything. I have no idea what I need to do to prepare. And he's like, have you eaten or drunk? And I said, no, you guys just woke me up. So I haven't eaten or drunk anything since like midnight yesterday. He was like, that'll do. By the time you get here and we get you into the operation room, it'll be 12 hours. So just come if you can. And I was like, okay, I'm showering and I'm coming like right now. Less than 40 minutes later, from arriving at the hospital, I was in the surgeon's room, like given the anesthetic and the gas and everything and going in. And I was like, cool, do a good job. I wasn't like nervous at all because A, I didn't have time to get nervous, and B, I was just so ecstatic that someone was doing something about my situation. And I was very lucky. The surgery went very, very well. He did a great job. So far, everything is good. And they said that like, apart from, I had numerous tumors in there, which they actually cut out. I had like cervical tumors. So they removed all of those. And he said to me, like, hopefully that's why you were bleeding really heavily, because they were quite big. And now we just have to hope they don't grow back again. I have, for those of you who have this problem, I didn't find anything that the doctors gave me helped. And the gynecologist told me that no, that doesn't. Even though GPs love to hand out the hormones and the tranexamic acid, he said basically it doesn't do anything. It doesn't fix the problem unless you get the fibroids removed. So he said you can take that if you want to, but you don't need to. This is before I had the surgery. But my dad is a retired Chinese medicine practitioner, and he sent me medication. Originally, like I said, my endometrial lining was very, very thick when they went in for the surgery, and they gave me a myoscopy, I think it's called. Myopy, anyway, whatever. They put like a camera up there and they do like a little kind of ultrasound camera thing. I don't really understand what the tool is exactly, but apparently it was completely normal, and they don't know why. In terms of Western medicine, they were like, it's unusual for it to be super thick like that and then just like fix itself. So, but that's good. There's no problem in there now. And I attribute that definitely to the Chinese medicine, because in the few weeks before my surgery, the amount of bleeding, instead of exponentially getting worse, like died down, not a lot, but a bit. And now that I've had the surgery, I don't seem to have any problems at all. So if you're wondering what another option is other than taking hormones and tranexamic acid, I would highly recommend Chinese medicine. I'm going to be continuing to take it because, like I said, my mum had adenomyosis. From a Chinese medicine standpoint, my dad was worried that maybe that was something I was developing. So the Chinese medicine can help keep that under control, because as far as Western medicine is concerned, they don't know why I got fibroids and polyps. Other than surgically removing them, they don't really know what to do about them. And they have no idea why the lining of my uterus was so thick and is now not thick. So this could all come back again. So I've decided to continue taking the Chinese medicine. It's a lot of medication in a day, but it is herbal. It's all like natural ingredients. And you know what? If it means that I don't have any problems like this in the future, fingers crossed, it works, then I'm willing to take that every day. I would much rather take herbal medication every day than take hormones every day for the rest of my life. If you are dealing with ridiculous bleeding or something to do with your reproductive organs and no one is doing anything about it, do persist, because no one would have done anything about this if I hadn't insisted on seeing a specialist. I would still have this problem. So it wasn't because the doctor was like, oh, we should probably send you to see a specialist. They really didn't want to send me, and I literally had to throw tantrums and cry to make them send me. But it really paid off in the long run, and it still took an incredibly long time for them to get around to giving me surgery, but that's because the hospital forgot to tell me. And what is crazy, I forgot to tell you guys, when I told the surgeon that I had been told that he hadn't filled out the paperwork properly, and that's why they couldn't give me an appointment, he was so angry, because on the other way around, he had been told that I was declining his offers for surgery dates. So he'd actually done all of the paperwork and offered me dates, and whoever was supposed to send me the letter offering me the dates was just lying and telling him they'd send it to me and I'd refused the hospital dates, which was complete nonsense. Anyway, he was very kind and gave me his direct email. So now he said, don't worry about communicating with the hospital, communicate with me and I will book you into the system. And I was like, great. So that's the story, guys. If you are dealing with this, let me know down in the comments below. If you have any other questions, you know, there's some things I didn't get into too much detail about because it might be TMI, but if you have questions you want to ask me to help you, not just because you're prying and being weird, but like if you genuinely have this kind of issue yourself and you want to ask me any questions, please feel free to maybe send me a DM on Instagram. Oh, and I have to say, I just discovered, so I've had my little Ko-fi thing, which is like a donation thing, which I never mentioned because I feel really weird about asking for money, and someone suggested once I put it there, and I put it, and then ever since I've been ignoring that it existed. But anyway, I thought I had notifications turned on to tell me if someone gave me a donation or bought me a coffee, as that's the concept of it, is that you like give someone the equivalent of the amount of a coffee as just like a little thank you. Because I never mentioned it, I assumed that the reason I wasn't getting notified of anything is because no one was giving me any coffees because I hadn't ever told them to. But recently I got a random bunch of emails telling me that actually over like the past 18 months, not a lot of people, but a few people have been very generous and given me coffees. And like one person in particular gave me like 30 pounds worth of coffee, which was so lovely. And I am so incredibly sorry that I didn't say thank you. I really didn't know. But yeah, thank you so much. That is so lovely. And it's gone towards buying like more camera equipment and stuff. So I just, yeah, that's very, very sweet and lovely and kind, and just thank you so much. So anyway, guys, that's the video. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and click that little notification bell so you know when my videos come out. Come and follow me on my Instagram. Come and join the Vintage Tips and Tricks group on Facebook. We would love to have you, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye.